This first one, everyone sees the 1/2, and they see capital R with the subscript of 1. The capital R means a row. Subscript means the row we're talking about. In this case, row 1. So what am I asking? Everything in row 1 multiply by 1/2 or divide by 2. Well, what about rows 2 and 3? Nothing. Rewrite them. All right. So what's this new matrix going to look like? You're going to have a brand new row 1 by using that rule, multiplying all the numbers in row 1 by 1/2 or dividing by 2. So row 1 now is going to look like 1, -6. How about -3? 2 and 5. What about the rest? Nothing. I said only multiply row 1 by -1/2. Or 1/2, excuse me. So the rest, row 2 is going to look exactly the same. And row 3 is going to look exactly the same. And there's a reason why we're doing this. We're okay there. What do you think I'm asking for in the next one? Swap them. Which ones, though? Take row 1 and row 2 and replace them with each other. Now, make sure we realize I always want you to go back to the original matrix, not the previous one we just built. Go back to the original one and switch rows 1 and 2 with each other. What about row 3?
Remain the same.
Thank you. Stays the same. So 1, 5, -5, 0. There we go. All right, definitely no issues yet. All right, now it gets a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to slow it down. First, read the rule to me. What am I looking here to do? Take, what's R1?
Row 1.
Take the entire row 1, every number in row 1, and do what with it? Multiply it by -3. Then I want you to take that answer and do what? Add it to whatever's in row 2. But here's the issue. Where do I put these new numbers? Right? Do I just add a 4th row now? No. All right. Where do I put these new numbers after I apply this rule? You always replace the row you're adding to it. All right. So I'm going to replace row 2 by this rule. All right. What about row 1 and row 3? Stays the same. Your new row 2 is going to happen using this rule. All right. So I'm going to replace always replace the row you're adding on to. So my piece of advice, just rewrite rows 1 and 3 right now. Right? Rows 1 and 3 are staying the same. They are staying the same. 1, -3, 2, 0, 2, -2, 1, and 3. All right. I'll go slow it down now. Ready for the new row 2. How do you get the new row 2? You use that rule I gave you. So ready? -3 times row 1. Right now there's a 1 there. And then I'm going to add that to what was in row 2, which is a 3 here. So everyone see how I'm using that rule. -3 times 1 plus 3. And what's that going to give you?
0.
There's my new row 2. There's going to be a 0 there. Let's keep going. -3 times -3 plus what's in row 2? In this case, a 1. So -3 times -3 plus that 1. So I'm going to write a 10 here. And then I'm going to keep using that rule. Take row 1, multiply it by -3, and then add it to row 2. And give me that new number in row 2. All right, what's that next number here in row 2? -7 are we getting? Anybody want to see how we got -7? -3 times 2 plus -1. And then see what you got for the last number there. Negative 3 times 0 plus 7. Still going to stay 7, right? Yes, Dylan.
How do you like? I don't understand why it goes in the second row rather than like the first row.
Because it's always, you always replace the row you're adding on.
Oh,
Okay, that's the rule. I always replace the rule you're adding to, or the row you're adding on. Okay, good. Now all the other rows stay the same.
Negative 7 and 7.
Yeah.
How did that?
Okay, ready? Watch, ready? Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Plus the negative 1 underneath is negative 7.
Oh, I was doing negative 3 times negative 1.
No. It's, watch, Jerry, it's negative 3 times what's in row 1. Right?
Yeah.
And the 2 is in row 1.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I get negative 6. Negative 6 plus negative 1 gives me that negative 7. Sure you're good?
Yep.
So we're going to do a couple more here. Anybody else? Issues? All right. One doesn't make you great. This one here. Okay, which row is going to get replaced?
Well,
Row 3. Whatever the row we're adding always gets replaced. So rows 1, 2, and 4 remain the same. So that's how I always start these out, by just rewriting those and then working on my new row at the end. And then what numbers go in row 3? The numbers you get by using this rule. So negative, ready? I'll do the first one here with you. Negative 2 times 1 plus 2. I'm multiplying row 1 by negative 2 and then adding what's in row 3 to it. And I should get a 0 out there.
wait, where's the second plus 2 coming from? Or like the at you?
Right here, ready? Negative 2.
Oh, it's the third one.
It's, remember, yeah, we're in row 3 now, right? We're in row 3. Good question. We're in row 3 now. So I got to add it on to row 3. I'm getting a 2 next. One. Two. And then finally here, should get a 5.
You're terrible.
So,
Why is there a line?
because what's going to end up happening, we're going to actually use equations. And I don't know if you remember from day 1, after the equal sign, we put a vertical line. So that's why I'm just keeping it there. Okay, hey, anything. It's going to get tougher at the end of class today. All right, one more here, and then I'm going to let you go on your own. Negative, and again, go back to the original matrix I gave you. Negative 5 times row 1 plus row 4. Okay, think about it. What row are we replacing? 4, yep. So just keep 1 through 3 the same, but make sure you're adding row 4 now.
I got 0. I got 0, 6, negative 3, negative 1, negative 9.
I got positive. Hang on.
Because 3 times 5 is 15. Minus the 6 is 9.
Yeah, it is negative 9.
I was reading that.
Okay, ready? So in the first spot, -5 times 1 is -5 plus 5. I should have another 0 here. Should have a 0 for that first spot. Let me know if the numbers don't match and you want to see how I got it. I got a 0 there. Next one, I got a 6. I got a -3. A -1. And then my last number here, when I did -5 times 3 plus 6, -9. Okay, we all good? Go ahead, flip it over. Go ahead, flip it over. Okay, you got that entire page right now. All right, on your own, here are the answers to the first 3 of them at least, so you can look up when you're done. Hey, just so you know, make it easy on yourself because you just rewrite a lot of the rows. Anything in a different color here is the row you should be looking at. All right, the rest of the matrix should be the same as what you started with. So, all right, those are the answers to the first 3, but you guys are completing the full page. So once I see people move on to the last 2, I'll put those answers up. So go ahead, let's get through this because the last part of this notes today is not easy at all. All right. All right. So first, write this system as a matrix. We did this on day 1. All right. I'm coming back to it now. 3 variables, 3 equations. What I'm ultimately getting at before we finish the unit is you guys solved these in Algebra 2A last year and when we were getting ready for the Regents in January. You can solve these using matrices. And that's what I'm building towards. How do you figure out what X, Y, and Z are using a matrix instead of doing it the way you used to do it? So the first thing I need your help with is making a matrix. So let's review, go back to day 1. How do I make a matrix out of these 3 equations? Row 1 will be your first equation, but just the numbers out in front of the variables. I don't need the variables in here. I just need the numbers out in front. So row 1 is going to look like 1, -2, -1. Remember the equal sign, and some of you guys asked about this today. That's why I went back to show you that vertical bar, and then a 2 after. So there's row 1. All right, row 2, 2, -1, 1. What's that, a 4? And finally, row 3, -1, 1, -2, -4. All right, so we're all right right now. Now, here's the big part. I need you to get 1, 0, 0 in the first column for me. All right, so when we're done with this matrix, I don't care what the rest of the matrix looks like, but in column 1, I need that right there. I need that. Well, we're already a third of the way, right? Because we already have a 1 there, so that's taken care of. So now I need your help to make that 2 into a 0. That's what I need your help. How do I get that 2 into a 0? Before we do that, in a matrix, you can only do 3 things. You are only allowed 3 moves in a matrix. You can multiply any row by a number that's not 0. So you just can't, hey, that's easy. Just multiply row 2 by 0 and you get your 0. You can't multiply by 0. You can multiply any row by a non-zero number. You can flip-flop 2 rows. And the last thing you're allowed to do, take a row, multiply it by a number, and add it to another row. Basically, everything I've asked you to do today, right? Multiply by a number that's not 0, flip-flop a row, or multiply a row by a number and add it to another one. That's what you're allowed to do. All right? So does everyone understand I just can't multiply row 2 by 0 and I'm good? It's not allowed. You cannot multiply by 0. So how else could I turn a 2 into a 0 then? I can't multiply by 0. How else can you do it then? Aaron?
I did.
Oh, just how do you take a 2 and get it to a 0 first?
You add -2 to it.
Everyone agree? If I had -2 to add to it, I get 0 there. All right, so where would I get that -2 from then? What number? I got a 1 here, right? What could I multiply by 1 to get a -2? A -2. That's why it's so powerful that this corner number be a 1, because whatever number you need to add here, you can get from that 1. All right? So let's write what we're about to do here. You need to add, because we're going to replace row 2, right? We're going to replace row 2. Again, ready? Slow. What do I need to add to 2 to get 0? -2. So that's what I'm going to multiply row 1 by. Because everyone agrees if I multiply row 1 by -2, I get -2, add it to 2, there's my 0. Yes? Help me out here. So here's my rule. -2 times row 1 plus row 2. That'll get me my 0. That's why it's so important that you guys always start with that corner number being a 1. Because whatever number you need, you multiply row 1 by it. Whatever number you need, you multiply row 1 by it. All right, what's our new matrix now? This is why I was on you guys about making sure you knew how to do these now. Rows 1 and 3 will remain the same. Now let's rewrite our row 2, our new row 2 now. I get a 0 there, which is what I wanted. And then how about the rest of the row? -2 times row 1 plus row 2 now. What about the rest of the row? See if you can fill it in. And then we still have to get one more 0 in there though.
Knock it off. That's not good.
How's everyone's new row 2 look? 0, 3, 3, 0. Let me know where I got a number from. We're all good?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm almost there. Now I need to make this -1 into a 0. So first thing you think about, what do I need to add to it?
-2.
Whoa. What do I need to add to a -1 to get 0?
1.
1. Go back up. How do I get a 1? Just multiply it by 1 or just add it to row 1. Right? So all I need to do here now is, all right, I'm going to replace row 3 with a 1. How do I get that 1? I go back to row 1. Everyone say I don't need to multiply it by anything because it's already the number I need. If I needed a 6, heck, I'd multiply it by 6. If I needed a -8, I'd multiply it by -8. As long as you have that 1 in the top left corner, you're good to go. All right, here we go. Final matrix. I get that 0 that I needed. And what about the rest of the row 3? That's fine. I should have changed it. All right, we all good? One more before we end it today. So, hey, again, If you want something to turn into a 0, figure out what you need to add to it and multiply row 1 by that. Done. Okay, that's all it is. It's a pattern. It is. As much as I hate to say that, it's a pattern. All right, let's write this one now. 1, 1, -1, -2, 2, -1.
Excuse me.
Okay, please don't go ahead here. I just want to comment on something. It worked out in the last two. You don't have to write it in this order. Like say this one here was like the last one I wrote. And I know I need a 1 to start with. You can start by writing that. The order doesn't matter, the way you write the equations. I just want to point that out. You can write it in whatever order you want. That makes sense? So instead of interchanging it after, just do it right at the beginning. Okay? Instead of swapping rows in the middle of it, you can do it right at the beginning. All right? All right, so I got the 1 there. All right, let's go to row 2. And I should have changed these up, but what do I add to 2? -2. So if you want a -2, that's what you multiply row 1 by. So -2 times row 1, and then, yep, we're going to add it to row 2. Whatever number you need to make that 0, you go back to row 1 and multiply by it. That's why it's so important that this bad boy right there is a 1. And this is only just a sniff of where I need you to be here. We just don't end matrix. We're just not going to say we're done with 1, 0, 0. We're going to keep going. And that's the goal here by the end of the unit. What's the rest of this one? -3, 3, and 9. And then, how do I make that -1 into a 0?
Add 1.
Add 1 to it. Perfect. I already got that in row 1. I don't even need, here, in this case, I don't even need to multiply. I can just say row 1 plus row 3. And I'm just adding those 2 rows together. Okay, we're good?
Yeah.
I didn't mention at the beginning of class, your quizzes are all graded. I still have one person in period 3 who needs to take it. So once he takes it, I will hand them back. But they're all up on Ask.